Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Keith Baskell, UCMDB Worldwide Support Lead. And today we're going to do a demonstration of configuring Grafana and Prometheus. The first thing that we'll do, I already have my Grafana system up and my Prometheus system. So I've extracted Prometheus to the C drive under Prometheus. And so I'm editing this prometheus.yml file. That is this file here. The global configs in my case are just fine. I don't have any rules set up. The scrape configs, I've set the job name to be my UCMDB. The metrics path is metrics, and its target is myucmdb.mycompany.com. And it's always a good idea to check that you have connectivity to the server before you enable Prometheus metrics gathering. So if I go to myucmdb.mycompany.com/metrics, you can see that it is not secure. It's using a self-signed certificate. And so I would have the option to import that certificate or to ignore the TLS warnings. Here are my, for example, servlet API access statistics buckets, and you can see all of those. In different versions of UCMDB, you will see different options available, but I think the minimum is 2022-05. This is a 24.2 UCMDB system, so it's the latest version. I have the insecure skip verify set to true. I'll save and close that, and then I'm going to run Prometheus --config.file prometheus.yml, and that will start Prometheus. We can check in a web browser to make sure that it is running. And indeed, Prometheus is running. This is myprometheus.mycompany.com. And you can see that I have a dashboard here. Now, I should also have some statistics here. So I could actually write a query in Prometheus. If I click on status and targets, I have one target, and that target is currently up. The instance name is myucmdb.mycompany.com, :8443. The job name is myucmdb. That's going to be important when I go into graph some of my metrics. Now I'm going to go to Grafana. By default, the email or the username and password is admin. But on first login, you have to change the password, and so I have changed it. So now I am logged in. This is the welcome screen. The first thing we need to do is add a new connection to our data source. You can type in here Prometheus, or you could scroll down to Prometheus. So I've clicked on Prometheus, and then I'm going to click Add a new data source. The name of that data source is whatever name you want to refer to this. I'm going to call it Production UCMDB. The URL for that server, http myprometheus.mycompany.com :9090. There is no authentication. There's no HTTP, HTTPS, that kind of thing. So I'm going to save and test. And you can see it successfully queried the Prometheus API. So now we're good. So if I look at the dashboards now, I want to create a new dashboard. And when I create a new dashboard, I can just start by adding visualizations, or I can import a dashboard. In the download for UCMDB monitoring 24.2 from the Micro Focus Marketplace, there is inside the zip file, there is a dashboard folder that has UCMDB discovery metrics and UCMDB metrics. So we'll take one of these and import it into our Grafana system. So the first thing that I'm going to do is click Import Dashboard. Now I can drag and drop the file, or I can copy the URL and put it, the Grafana dashboard URL here, or I can copy and paste the JSON directly from the file. So I'm going to drag and drop this, and we'll do the discovery metrics and drag that and drop it here. And I'm going to call this dash out of the box. We need to select our data source, which is my production UCMDB, and I'm now going to import it. Now you'll notice that there is no data for a lot of these entries, and that is because the out-of-the-box Grafana dashboard thinks that you're going to use the out-of-the-box monitor, which is UCMDB-monitor, and that's not what we named ours. So you can click on, for example, this server API access count. You can click the menu button up here and edit it. And then the data source is indeed production UCMDB, but you can see the job is UCMDB monitor, but we only have my UCMDB. So I'm going to collect it from my UCMDB and then rerun, and you can see now we have queries. In this case, we have changed the legend on here to be the command. So this is the dashboard task. This is get server data. This is get setting value. By default, it's a very long command that is used. So we've modified it here so that it actually shows something relatively good. Here is the title of the panel, server API access count, and you can see this is a stat visualization. So I can save this, and I can add a note, changed data source, and then I can apply that. And now on my dashboard, I have the probe count here under probe, and I have API, I have all this. Now, this probe right here that you can minimize and expand, to add one of those, you would click add row. That is a row, and then you can drag and drop where you need. We're going to add another visualization for probe because I just don't want to know the probe count. We also have gauges for probe CPU utilization and things like that. So I'm going to add a visualization from production UCMDB. The metric I'm going to use is probe, and I want probe CPU usage, and I'm going to select the job of my UCMDB, and then I'm going to run that query. Now the time series, I want to use a gauge to show this, so it's going to be a gauge. In the panel title, I will type CPU utilization, and I probably should prepend that with probe so that it makes a little more sense. I'm going to save that, added probe CPU, and then apply it. You can directly apply it. Now, when I added that new visualization, it went above this probe area. So what I can do is navigate to like the title bar, and my mouse becomes a four-headed arrow, and then I can drag and drop this where I want it to be. So now I've got my probe CPU utilization. Furthermore, I can edit this again and add values for thresholds. So let's say that 80% is bad. I want to add another threshold, and we'll say that 50% is kind of a warning, but I want that warning to be kind of a pink color. And then we'll add another one, and we'll say that 25% is yellow, right? Is this yellow color, and then the base is going to be green. So I'll go ahead and apply that, and you can see now the gauge has turned yellow. So I want to add another probe utilization. I could do that. For example, probe, I think there's probe memory utilization is another one that you can add. But the process to modify this is similar as we move along. Now, the dispatch values, these are only available if the customer is using the new discovery UI. And if you look at this information, it only shows values when customer switches to new discovery. That's the discovery in the CMS UI. So if I'm using classic discovery from the local client, I won't see any of this, nor anything here, nor anything here. So we can also go ahead and add a new dashboard. All right, so I'm going to click Save to save this dashboard. And then I'm going to click on the Dashboards link and add a new dashboard. And we'll just start by adding visualizations. The data source I want to use is the production CMDB, and it starts me off in the query selector. So I can select a metric, and I'm going to use, once again, some probe stuff. I'll do the probe memory usage, and I'm going to select a job. That's my UCMDB. Now, if I don't select this, I will get all probe usages from all probes that might be reporting to the system. So I could say I want to filter it by probe, and then there's a probe name. Or I could say I want to filter it by customer, and there's your customer name. Or an instance, and this is the instance of my UCMDB. In this case, they all kind of do the same thing because I only have the one data source actually collecting data. Now, this is the probe memory usage. If I run this query, you can see that the title of this is got a very long name. So I want to change the legend from being auto to being custom. And now I want to enter the name of the thing that I want as the value. And I'm going to say probe. All right. So when I run this query again, now you can see it's got the short name of the probe. I don't know that I want this as a time series. Once again, this is the probe memory usage. So maybe it would be best as a gauge. Now it's in a gauge format. And I can go ahead and change the panel title to tell me what this is. Probe CPU utilization. And once again, if I wanted to, I could add different values for the thresholds. Let me go ahead and just click apply. And now it's just applied it. I still have to save the dashboard. And this dashboard will be my new dashboard. And I'm going to save it. I could save it in subfolders underneath dashboard, for example. So my dashboard is saved. I have one panel in it. I want a row above this, kind of like was in the previous example. So I'm going to add a row. My row title, I'll say probe information. And I'll update that. And I'm going to add another one, which is also a row. And this one I'm going to call server information. And I can just take and drag this particular item where I want it to be. And now I have the probe information first and the server information second. Now let's add another visualization. So from the production CMDB, I'll look at the data in CI rate. Again, I can select the job and my specific job for this and then run this query. And you can see right now there is no data in actually occurring. Let's go ahead and start our discovery. Now that our discovery has begun, you can see we actually have some data in the data in. Let's go ahead and change the panel title. And right now the panel title is set to panel title. We want to say data in CI We don't need to have any kind of thresholds for that. We also could check different time series. For example, if this line didn't look exactly like you wanted, maybe a bar chart would look better, or the stat line with the actual number. A gauge doesn't make a lot of sense. We could do kind of a vertical bar gauge, a table showing the individual data times, pie charts, but all of the data is from the same data source, heat maps, histograms, all different types of graphics. In this case, I think I like the time series actually the best. It's got the nice lines in it. So I'm going to click Save and then Apply. And now this data CI rate is here. I want to move it under server information. And if I wanted to, I could resize it to make it thinner, shorter, wider. I could go the whole panel. I could go very, very small. So it's up to you what you would like this to be. I'm going to actually put this one here as wide, and I'm going to make this one a bit smaller so that it shows up with a better visualization. And I'll add another probe information here, and then we'll publish this. So visualization, and since it's going to be in the probe area, let's look at probe. I think the other one was probe memory usage, so we'll look at probe CPU usage. And I'm going to select the job as my UCMDB and make it a gauge, and then run the query. You can see that it's good here, and here are my lines that make it red. So right now it's at 35%, so that's good. That looks good. So let's go ahead and save that and then apply it. And then we'll save the dashboard. Put this right beside here. And now I have my probe CPU usage, probe utilization, and data in rate. And I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to share it. With sharing, there's a couple of options. I can share a direct link to my URL. I can use a current theme, a dark theme, or a light theme in a link. I could take a snapshot of my data. I could export this data in JSON, or I could make it a public dashboard. Now, the problem with a link, if I wanted to take this URL and put it into an iframe in another website that required a login, then you would need to log in twice, log into the website and then log into Grafana. So we don't like logins inside logins in web pages, generally speaking. So if I wanted to make this public, you have to acknowledge that your dashboard will be public and it works on this subset of data and it causes queries to be run each time it's viewed. So if you're using the cloud version of Grafana, this could increase the cost. And now I'll generate the public URL. Here is my public URL. It's almost always from the local host. So I will copy that. And then I'm going to open a second web browser that's not this web browser, so it doesn't have any cached information. And you can see that I log right into the URL, right? I didn't have to actually type a username and a password to get here. That is how to create dashboards with Prometheus and Grafana from UCMDB. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you have a good day.